Online game, I possess a monster merging simulator. Chapter 301, Nature Forest. Swish. Lorne crushed the teleportation scroll and returned to Iron Skull City. Although the cold desolate Dragon City was closer to his destination, that place was too dangerous. It was safer to leave from there. Moreover, he could use the Gnome Mineral Company's teleportation array to save time. Before approaching the teleportation circle, Lorne checked the map. Iron Skull City was to the west of the map. To the north was the icy plains of Calamity, and to the northwest, there was the Gnome Kingdom and the Elven Kingdom. Beyond these two kingdoms was Seaside City. Seaside City was a player city on the same level as Iron Skull City, but because of the obstruction of the Gnome Kingdom and the Elven Kingdom, the players in the two cities could not cross back and forth. Now, Lorne was going to the Elven Kingdom. The Elven Kingdom city that bordered Iron Skull City was called Emerald City. It was said that the Dragon of Emerald, Lena, liked to descend in this city the most, which was why it had the Emerald City. This was an extremely glorious name. Although he was not sure if the Dragon of Emerald would really be in that city, as long as there was the Elven Holy Temple, he could still introduce it to the Dragon of Emerald. The second chapter of Lorne's mission was in the other party's hands. He wondered what kind of mission it would be. It seems to be a long way from the Gnome Mountain range. Lorne calculated the distance and found that it would take at least 2 to 3 days. The huge dream forest became the greatest obstacle in Lorne's way. Only by passing through this forest could he reach the Forest of Nature, where Aisha's race was located. If he continued northwest and walked out of Iron Skull City, he would immediately step into the territory of Emerald City. What a long journey! With a sigh, Lorne entered the teleportation circle. In the next second, he appeared in the Gnome Mountain range. Then, he rushed towards the distant forest. To avoid attracting the attention of the surrounding monsters, Lorne entered stealth mode. As long as one's level was not too higher than Lorne, they would not notice his arrival. This could reduce the obstacles and quickly march through the forest. Swish! In the forest, Lorne was extremely fast. Because of his attributes and specialization in agility, coupled with his luxurious equipment, the movement speed of a summoner was naturally much higher than that of an archer at the same level. Not only that, but after entering invisibility, his movement speed would also increase by 30%, allowing him to instantly cross the forest at high speed. The invisibility effect was also excellent, helping him avoid most of the attacks. However, this model also had a considerable drawback, because invisibility required MP. This was a test of his potion stock. Now, the highest players could buy a level 4 potion and recover 1200 MP at once. This was a little difficult for Lorne to maintain. After all, in the invisibility state, he needed to spend 50 MP per second. Fortunately, Lorne's MP was close to 20,000 points now. Even without the potion, he could maintain invisibility for more than 6 minutes. In addition, his magic recovery ability was very strong. Before his MP was filled, it would also produce a very good effect. While traveling, Lorne paid special attention to the consumption of MP. He discovered that his MP would dry up about 10 minutes later. Then, without using up his MP, he could recover within 10 minutes. This was not an obstacle that affected speed. Lorne only moved through the forest for 10 minutes without invisibility, so it did not affect his speed. After all, with Aisha by her side, she would deal with the monsters she encountered along the way. Speaking of which, in the mission regarding the Holy Angel, he had let Aisha go to the territory to obtain the baptism of the elemental power. Was this considered increasing his aptitude? It should be. Lorne thought that would happen, but he was curious. With Aisha's current strength, what level would she evolve to if she improved again? Also, would Gabriel's recovery affect Aisha? Lorne liked Aisha's personality now. Although she was young, she was abnormally tenacious. Such an unyielding character was indeed very attractive. Therefore, Lorne did not want Gabriel's recovery to affect Aisha's soul. Let's see. Perhaps the two can exist separately and not affect each other. Lorne hoped so. This was equivalent to obtaining two pets. If in the future, when the affinity reached the level of close friend, wouldn't he be able to obtain double the happiness with Aisha? Yes, that made sense. It made complete sense. Ha 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 ha. Ding. You have entered the neutral map Nature Forest. 2 days later, Lorne finally arrived at the Nature Forest. This was still the territory of Iron Skull City. If he wanted to go to the Emerald City, he had to continue heading northwest. After passing through half of the Nature Forest, he would reach the range of the Emerald City. Without thinking, Lorne set off. But after traveling through the Nature Forest for a while, he suddenly heard something. The sound of fighting? The sound of weapons colliding was very clear. Clearly, someone was fighting. Did some players develop here? Curious, Lorne entered stealth mode and approached the sound. In the end, he arrived near a small hill. Under the hill in front of him, several players were attacking an elf. That elf was very strange. There was faint black energy on his body, and his eyes were scarlet. He looked abnormal. What kind of elf was it? It seemed to belong to the same race as Aisha, so they were both night elves. This could be seen from her moon-white skin and silver hair. It was too easy to recognize. Aisha, that should be your tribesman, right? Lorne could not help but ask. There was only one night elf race in Iron Skull City. Since Aisha was from this night elf race, the elf in front of him was definitely no exception. Yes, but she's no longer a kind night elf. Aisha's eyes stared ahead, her small hands clenched. Sensing her emotions, Lorne held her hand and comforted her, then asked, how did she become like this? It's the power of the Dark Abyss. Chapter 302, Dark Elves. Dark Abyss. Lorne looked at the elf in front and wondered, is it demonized? Yes. Aisha nodded and explained, a long time ago, the Dark Abyss began to target our night elves. They often invaded our territory and even attacked our people. They used the evil power of darkness to turn the originally kind night elves and demons into savage dark elves. Is it because of your combat strength? Lorne asked. Yes. Aisha said, the night elves are natural assassins. Our combat strength at night is very powerful. There are almost no assassin warriors of any race who can compare to us, and this is only the innate strength of the night elves. Once the night elves are turned into dark elves by the demons, their combat strength when walking at night will also increase by a qualitative level. It is also because of this that the Dark Abyss has been coveting our strength. Then why did you seek the help of the Elven Kingdom? Lorne looked at Aisha and said curiously, according to what I know, the Elven Kingdom's Emerald City is also in the Nature Forest. It shouldn't take long for you to go there, right? Hearing this, Aisha fell silent. A few seconds later, she gritted her teeth and said, they won't help us. Why? Because they treat the night elves as low elves. Aisha explained unwillingly, originally, the night elves were a part of the high elves. We had powerful combat strength and supported peace, but because of the involvement of the Dark Abyss, it made many night elves become evil dark elves. The dark elves who obtained powerful strength used their hiding ability to attack other elves and even kill many of them. Firstly, the elves of other races all thought that we night elves did it, so they began to denounce us. Even if the misunderstanding was resolved later, such disgust still entered the hearts of the people. As time passed, our night elves' status gradually decreased. In the recent era, we had already gone from high elves to low elves today. However, that was not the worst. The worst thing was that we, who were originally living near the Emerald City, were invaded by the dark power again. There was an elf who could not resist the temptation of the power and actually chose to merge the dark power. This led to an earth-shattering change in our night elf race. In the end, it was the Dragon of Emerald who descended here who ended this chaos. However, to our despair, it turned out that before the elf was completely demonized, she had secretly brought the power of darkness into the territory of the race. After a long period of contact, a large number of our night elves had already been planted by the power of darkness. The Dragon of Emerald knew that it was the night elves who actively threw themselves into the darkness that triggered all of this, so it angrily chased our race out of the Elven Kingdom and ordered that we could never enter the territory of the Emerald City, or else we would be completely wiped out. Aisha lowered her eyes and narrated the past sadly. It was not that they were unwilling to seek help from the Emerald City. It was because the Emerald City had completely abandoned them. The Dragon of Emerald, Lena, hated the self-abandoning night elves to the core. In the end, she did not even save them, who had already been planted with the seeds of darkness. Therefore, this night elf race submitted to Iron Skull City. Many years had passed. Fortunately, their ancient tree of life's branch had grown. It was because of this magical ancient tree that they could last until now. In that case, these players should be doing the mission of the Emerald City. Lorne thought as he rubbed his chin. Since the Dark Elves were the ones that the elves hated the most, as long as the players killed the Dark Elves, they would definitely obtain a large amount of reputation among the elves. This would explain the scene before him. As for why these players came here so early, it should be the plan of a large guild. After all, large guilds had to consider the future. The moment they entered the main city, they had to explore the surrounding map. This was something every large guild would definitely do. Swish! 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 Under the siege of several players, the dark elf quickly jumped, and dodging words kept appearing above its head. This was the talent of the night elves. They were more agile than other elves and even had natural dodging abilities. They had a chance to avoid being injured. Especially after becoming a dark elf, this ability became more and more outstanding. Unfortunately, against such a concentrated attack, even with her dodging talent, it was difficult to avoid all damage. As she dodged, she was slashed by swords. However, this elf was not afraid. Her eyes were red and she was breathing heavily. She was still full of fighting spirit and seemed to be ready to fight to the death. The surrounding players were not in a hurry. They relied on their advantage in numbers to slowly wear down the health points of the elf. Under such damage, it would not be long before the dark elf fell under their blades. Boss, the elves are really beautiful. It's a pity to kill them. A warrior player with the prefix Domination Guild on his head looked at the elf in front of him with a pig-like expression. What's the hurry? Are there not many beautiful elves in the divine realm? The leader said, as long as we raise our levels, what beautiful NPCs can't we obtain in the future? Boss is right. With strength, we can have whatever we want. The warrior player smiled. By the way, boss, has the guild leader not gathered enough affinity points with the elves to accept the mission? There are so many of us, and we have been farming here for a long time, and we have even bought a large amount of resources at a high price. Isn't that enough? Another shield warrior player said. What do you know? Those elves are all high-level NPCs. How can they be so easy to conquer? The leading player smiled and said, however, I think it should be soon. I reckon that if we offer some more gems and herbs, we should be able to obtain the other party's trust. At that time, the entire elven race will belong to our guild. In the future, whoever performs well, the guild leader might reward you with an elf to play with. Really? Of course. As long as you have the ability, the guild leader will not treat you badly. Hee, that's right. Alright, stop chatting. Let's quickly kill this elf and hand her elemental heart to the guild leader. I'll treat us to some skewers tonight. Thank you, boss. Several players stopped chatting and began to attack the dark elf seriously. Arrows, magic, and sword attacks swarmed over at the elf. Chapter 303, Damn! He's Tyrant. Blink. Facing the incoming attack, the dark elf immediately moved. Then, the dagger in her hand turned and quickly slashed across the throat of an archer. This was a weak spot that could easily deal critical damage. Unfortunately, this attack did not kill this player instantly, because the elf was in a very poor state and her combat strength had been reduced. Before she could continue attacking, the shield warrior player beside her immediately rushed over. Boom! The shield in his hand suddenly pushing the elf to the ground. Attack together! Priests, pay attention to the injured. Don't be killed! The leader player roared and charged at the elf with his sword in hand. The other players also attacked. Master, may I? Aisha could not bear to see this. Although the night elf in front of her had been demonized, she still did not want to see her get slashed by the adventurers' swords. Moreover, that elf had just been demonized. She still had some self-awareness. Let's go and negotiate with them. Lorne walked out. Looking at his back, Aisha could not help but be stunned. Then, with a smile, she entered stealth mode. Miss. 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 After dodging many attacks, the dark elf was exhausted. At this moment, a powerful arrow hit the elf. This was an archer's level 30 skill, shock arrow, a powerful control skill. Being hit by this arrow, the dark elf was directly stunned on the spot. Seeing this scene, the others went crazy. They held their sabers and slashed at the elves. At this moment, a player in a magic robe suddenly walked out. Everyone, please stop for a moment. Lorne walked near the group and smiled, this elf is fated with me. I hope you can be sensible and let me have her. Hearing this, everyone looked over fiercely. Stealing monster? How bold! He was snatching it from their domination guild? Did this kid really not know how to spell death? Brother, we've been chasing this monster since it was at full health. Aren't you going overboard by suddenly running out to snatch it? The leader glanced at Lorne's ID and frowned when he realized that it was hidden. However, this player did not act rashly. He was also worried about the identity of this player who suddenly appeared. It was not a good decision to rashly offend him. It's true that you pursued it, but since I encountered it, it's fate with me. Everyone, this monster is mine now. I hope you can be generous and give it to me. Tisk. The shield warrior player spat and said angrily, give it to you? Who the heck are you? How dare you say such things in front of us? Who? Lorne was amused by the other party's words. There were indeed not many people who dared to speak to him like this these days, but there was no need to take this arrogance to heart. It could only be said that the ignorant were fearless. I'll say it again. This dark elf is mine now. You have two choices now. First, get lost before I attack. Second, die here. Lorne calmly approached them while threatening. Although he did not attack, his aura was very fierce. The group of players began to doubt themselves. However, when they saw that the other party was only a summoner and was so close to them, the fear in their hearts immediately disappeared. At such a close distance, even if this summoner's attributes were twice as powerful as theirs, he would be chopped into mincemeat in an instant. Thinking of this, the group of players looked unfriendly. Since you're courting death, don't blame us for being merciless. Brothers, kill him first. The leader gave the order. At this distance, not to mention such a summoner, even if Tyrant came, he was confident that he could kill the other party in an instant. But at that moment, an invisible figure descended into the crowd. However, Aisha did not attack. It was Lorne. With a flash, he arrived in front of the player and waved his short staff, smashing it at the other party's head. Pfft! A scene like a watermelon exploding appeared. A ridiculous damage number floated in the sky. -37,100, critical. The terrifying power even scattered his soul. The white soul shattered with a crack, and then the player returned to the Emerald City. Lorne's basic interface also had 6600 magic attack. After triggering the critical hit effect, he dealt 37,000 damage. This was all thanks to the enhancement of the 2 mythical equipment and the legendary title. Otherwise, his damage would have been around 10,000 at most. Damn! The other players were stunned. Their leader was a warrior and had an additional constitution. He already had over 5,000 health points and had excellent defense, but now, he was directly killed. How was this possible? The players froze on the spot. Only then did they react and take a few steps back. He's Tyrant. Someone saw through Lorne's identity. In the current game, only Tyrant could deal such damage. Others could not deal more than 30,000 damage. After all, his class was only a summoner. Tyrant, you're too much. Our Domination Guild has never provoked you. What right do you have to snatch our monster? If you're here to accept a mission in the Emerald City, I advise you to quickly apologize to us. Our Domination Guild is already an honored guest of the Elves. If you dare to oppose us, as long as the guild leader says a word, you will never be able to accept a mission in the Emerald City. Although the members of the Domination Guild were flustered, they also had their own trump cards. Their Domination Guild had been operating in the Emerald City for more than a month and already had a good reputation. They could even meet high-level NPCs. Although this could not be considered a power, words were fearful. As long as they spoke a few bad words to the NPC, they might directly reject this player. Especially that guy, Tyrant. This guy had already killed so many lives. The Elves yearned for peace. When they knew that Tyrant was such an adventurer, they would definitely blacklist him. It was because of this confidence that they dared to stay here and confront Tyrant. Apologize? Why should I apologize? Isn't snatching monsters a habit of your Domination Guild? Lorne grinned, then flashed in front of the other party. As he waved his short staff, he smiled, now, it's time for you to have a taste of having your prey snatched away. Chapter 304, Dark Elf Body. What? The player's scalp turned numb. The voice was like a needle that stabbed into his ear. Before he could react, in the next second, a short staff struck his face. Slash! His head exploded. Just because you're from the Domination Guild, it doesn't matter how I want to kill you. After all, there's no need to reason with evil people. Lorne smiled at them, raised his short staff, and continued attacking the others. As the strongest expert with an agility attribute that far exceeded ordinary players, these elite players of the guilds were not worth mentioning. They only needed a short staff to knock everyone's heads off. Pft, pft, pft. The sound of watermelons exploding sounded. Lorne's combat strength was still very powerful. The 6,000 plus attack panel allowed him to ignore any defense. Within 2 hits, this player would definitely die. Everyone, run! The players of the Domination Guild fled. But how could such a speed of escape work against Lorne? He held his short staff and quickly caught up to them at a speed several times that of ordinary players. Then, he used his staff to blow up their heads. Soon, a group of Domination Guild players turned into white light and flew back to Emerald City. Close combat is indeed the most exciting. Lorne looked at his staff. It was no longer a staff, but a war hammer. The feeling just now was really good. In the past, when they fought, he would only stand far away and command the pets. It was quite touching to occasionally take action today. Especially when he dealt critical damage, he could clearly sense a force piercing through his arm and pouring out. This delightful feeling was a dream of all boys. However, the summoner class was really good. After all, it should be a boy's greatest dream to have an elf like Aisha by his side. Master, she's running away. Aisha reminded him. Go ahead. Dying in the hands of a princess like you might be the best outcome for her. Thank you. Aisha nodded at Lorne, then held her dagger and blocked the dark elf. When it noticed that the person was the princess, the dark elf's scarlet eyes were filled with joy. Finally, she fell into Aisha's arms in relief. Such a smile touched Aisha. Lorne walked up and placed his hand on the other party. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the material, Dark Elf's body. Congratulations on obtaining the material, Dark Elf's soul. The system notification. A complete body. Lorne was surprised to see the message. The material he obtained this time was actually a complete elf corpse. In the past, the materials he had obtained were all body parts. This time, he had actually obtained a complete monster body. This was indeed unexpected. However, this corpse had been demonized. If he wanted to use her to merge pets in the future, he would have to consider demonization. Especially the monsters of the Order faction. After all, the monsters of the Order faction were all of the light attribute. Merging with the demonized Dark Elf might result in a strong rejection. As Lorne pondered, Aisha looked at him nervously. "Master, can we go to my home first?" Aisha asked. "Are you worried about the safety of the Night Elves?" Lorne touched her head. "Yes." Aisha nodded gently and said worriedly, "The moment we were driven out of Emerald City, the situation within the race was not optimistic. However, we were lucky to have the help of the ancient tree of life to continue until now. Even so, we rarely let the birth of the Dark Elves happen. Under normal circumstances, when we discover that there are Dark Elves in the race, the law enforcement elves will hunt them down and bring their elemental hearts back to the land of the race to beg for forgiveness. Now that there are Dark Elves outside, it means that there has been a huge change in the situation within the race. I want to go back first. Perhaps Mother needs my help now." Aisha was nervous. Because she was Lorne's pet, she followed his orders completely. Today was the first time she had made a request, and she was afraid of offending her master. But what Lorne said next made her worry fade. "Since you want to go back, let's go. In fact, I wanted to go to the Night Elves' territory first, but you didn't say anything." Lorne laughed and walked in one direction. Behind him, Aisha froze. She stared blankly at the figure in front of her, then burst into tears of joy. It was great to meet such a master. Ding! Congratulations on increasing the affinity between you and your pet, Aisha. Affinity plus 5,000. Lorne glanced at the notification on the interface. Indeed, the right way to increase their affinity was to move their hearts. In this case, he was one step closer to reaching close friend. There was still more than 10,000 affinity points left before he and Aisha could be truly intimate. Just the thought of it was thrilling. However, the elf leader, Myra, had also reminded him not to do anything beyond friendship to Aisha, saying that he had to ensure her bloodline was pure. Lorne frowned at the thought. This was a problem. Although he could be intimate with Aisha, if it would really affect her aptitude and potential, he had to put this matter aside. This was respect for Aisha. Lorne did not want to treat her as a pile of data. In his mind, Aisha was an individual with cognition and self-awareness. Then, Lorne followed Aisha through the nature forest. This nature forest was under the jurisdiction of Iron Skull City, but because Iron Skull City and Emerald City were partners, the elves of Emerald City were still free to enter this area. This gave the Night Elves a huge pressure. They did not want to encounter the elves of the Emerald City, because those elves would take the initiative to attack them, and some elves would even specially hunt them. All of this was caused by the detest of the Dragon of Emerald, and in addition to being often attacked by the Dark Elves, hatred was born in their hearts. All of them began to hate the Night Elves, especially the ones who had traitors emerging within them. It was because of this that the Night Elves chose to camp near the northern icy plain. Only this cold and uninhabited place could give them a short period of peace. On the way, Lorne did not speak. He was thinking about something. If this plan was possible, cold desolate Dragon City might be able to obtain a powerful force. Chapter 305, Night Elf Camp. We're here. He followed Aisha into the dense forest, then crossed mountains and finally arrived at the Night Elves' habitat. However, what he saw surprised him. On the ground in front of them, there were only a few very simple wooden houses and even some old tents. Near these wooden houses and tents, there were also some burning bonfires. There was no one around, but the elves were an extremely agile species. They thought that the ground was not safe, so when necessary, they would hide in the surrounding treetops to hide their bodies. Lorne discovered the night elves guarding the territory. They were as slender as Aisha and had daggers at their waists. They were vigilantly observing the surrounding environment. Seeing this, Lorne could not help but frown. To be honest, this was completely different from the Elven kingdom he remembered. In this Elven land, there were no decorations or even any beautiful things. There was only defeat and despair. It did not look like an elf land, but more like a defeated army. This is not the original tribe. Before I met Master, the Night Elves were attacked by the power of darkness. The demonized beastmen kept disturbing us. They attacked our territory without regard for their own safety and used their lives to destroy the defense of our territory. Helpless, we could only be forced to leave the territory. We wanted to wait for the demonized beastmen to be cleaned up before returning to the territory. But now, it seems that things are more dangerous than I imagined. Aisha looked at the camp in front of her, her eyes filled with worry. This also made Lorne curious about the Night Elves. Previously, Iron Skull City had called the players to sweep through the demonized beastmen and was perfectly resolved. However, the situation of the Night Elves did not ease up because of this. They were still wandering outside and were even in a very tragic state. Aisha, how many people does your tribe have? Lorne could not help but ask. At the beginning, there were more than 1,000 people who were expelled. However, after these years of demonization and hunting, the population of the race decreased rapidly. When I had an accident, there were only more than 300 night elves in the race. Now, there are probably even fewer. Aisha frowned, feeling very sad. Do you night elves have a gender difference? Almost all the night elves I've seen are women. Yes, but we elves are different from other races. The difference between males and females only affects the class. Only male elves can become warriors, while female elves are mostly assassins and archers. As for the problem of reproduction, we actually use the seeds of the ancient tree of life to reproduce. Aisha looked at Lorne and explained seriously, I was born after my mother poured her elemental power into the ancient tree of life's seed. Because I was produced from my mother's elemental power, I'm her daughter. They can reproduce like this. Lorne exclaimed in surprise. The word elf often appeared in the fantasy series. Because they represented purity and perfection, they were loved and praised. However, he did not expect that the birth of elves in this virtual world was so magical. However, this also matched the legend of the elves who were perfect and pure. Lorne liked this setting. As for why Master has not seen a male night elf, it's because most of the male night elves are warriors. Every time there's a war, they need to immediately rush up and face it head on. Therefore, the number of male elves decreases very quickly. After facing many battles, our race basically no longer has any male night elves. So tragic? The night elves were indeed a race famous for being assassins. After experiencing so many battles, the last ones were almost all female elves. After all, they were assassins and did not have to face a battle head-on, so they held back a lot in the end. This was good news. Lorne liked beautiful elves more. As for the elven warriors, as male compatriots, Lorne could not bring himself to like them. Let's go, Master. I think Mother will be very pleased to see me return. I'm worried that your mother will slash me to death. The corners of Lorne's mouth twitched. Although he was unwilling to face this problem, since he was already here, it was impossible for him to hide. He could only go and take a look. Perhaps he would obtain an unexpected harvest this time. Just as he was about to follow Aisha into the Elves' camp, a team of players suddenly appeared. People from the Domination Guild? Aren't they currying favor with the Emerald City? Why are they in the Night Elves' camp? Lorne frowned, feeling that something was amiss. At the same time, in the conference room of the Domination Guild headquarters, the management members of the guild had all passed the virtual projection and gathered in this room. What they were discussing was surprisingly the mission situation regarding the Night Elves. At this moment, a player beside shouted excitedly, "Boss, your plan to kill two birds with one stone is really too brilliant. On the one hand, you curried favor with the Emerald City and obtained a large amount of elf race reputation, and on the other hand, you pretended to help the Night Elves and obtained their trust. These so-called high-level NPCs are all under your control, boss." A month ago, when the scouts of the guild had just discovered the Emerald City, Unparalleled Domination had immediately sent a large number of players to attack the elves. Before the other players had come into contact with the other races, their Domination Guild had already gained a large amount of elf reputation. Moreover, he had recently discovered the Night Elves. They were a race abandoned by the Emerald City and were also the targets of earning high elf reputation points. This was because the current Dark Elves were basically all from the Night Elves. Therefore, they had been staring at this Night Elf race. As long as they discovered a demonized elf, they would immediately kill it. Not only that, but Unparalleled Domination also let his subordinates contact the Night Elf Queen to indicate that he would help them and provide support in terms of supplies. The purpose of this was to infiltrate the Night Elves. In addition, he wanted to try to obtain higher-level missions from the hands of the Night Elf Queen. However, later, Unparalleled Domination discovered that the elves of the Night Elves were all extremely beautiful. This made his heart, which he had indulged for many years, stir. Therefore, Unparalleled Domination had another goal of attacking the Night Elves. After all, at dawn today, the system had publicly stated that players and NPCs could have a relationship that surpassed friendship. What he wanted now was to make the Night Elves completely his harem. To be honest, he was sick of women in reality. Now, only the foreign women in the divine realm could make him have that desire to conquer again. Because of this, Unparalleled Domination had recently paid a huge price for the Night Elves. Chapter 306, Coincidence. Hehe, boss, when you capture the Night Elves, can you reward me? I like Night Elves too. Their moon-white skin and silver hair are simply irresistible. A higher-up of the guild, Brother Pig, said. That's easy. There are 200 to 300 Night Elves in this Night Elf race. If we capture all of them, everyone who contributes in the future will have a chance to obtain a Night Elf beauty. Unparalleled Domination laughed. In his opinion, this elf tribe was basically his. After all, he already had more than 20,000 reputation points with the Night Elves. As long as he could farm another batch of potions, it would definitely be higher. At that time, his status in the Night Elves would increase. Coupled with the fact that he had arranged for players to hunt the Night Elves everywhere and create pressure for them, the plan to make the Night Elves submit could definitely be easily achieved. Alright, I won't chat with you anymore. We have already reached the qualification to talk to the Queen face to face. Now, we can accept high-level missions from the Night Elf Queen. Unparalleled Domination did not chat with these people. Instead, he got someone to put the shared scene in the conference room. Then, he led a few players into the Night Elf Queen's cabin under the guidance of the elves. The other higher UPS of the guild watched with anticipation. In order to complete this matter during this period of time, their army of more than 20,000 was all moving. Just like that, it took half a month before they finally obtained the qualification to meet the Queen. Although the combat strength of the Night Elves was not very good, they were still high-level NPCs after all. They definitely had a very rare hidden mission. If he could obtain some platinum equipment rewards from them, he would make a killing. At that time, with the platinum equipment he had obtained in the cold desolate Dragon City, he would definitely have a chance to fight the strongest Fire Beacon Guild. If he was lucky and defeated them in one go, the Domination Guild would be able to become the #1 guild in the world. Therefore, everyone focused. However, at this moment, someone pointed at the screen. Just to the left of Unparalleled Domination, another player walked into the camp under the lead of a night elf. Everyone was stunned. But soon, someone's expression changed. It's him. It's Tyrant. A player recognized the extremely familiar face. The other players also came to a realization and their eyes widened. Gosh! What the heck is going on? Isn't Tyrant building the cold desolate dragon city? The higher UPS of the Domination Guild panicked. If there was anything they were most afraid of in this game, it was Tyrant. It was not because this kid's combat strength was astonishing. It was because every time this kid encountered his own people, the ones who would be unlucky would definitely be them. It will take at least 5 to 6 days to reach here from the cold desolate dragon city. Moreover, hasn't his cold desolate dragon city just been built recently? The construction of the internal building has not even been completed. Why did he leave the city and appear here? The situation is not good. It's not bad, it's bad. Only now do we know that the night elf, Aisha, has been by Tyrant's side. Their relationship must be very intimate. Perhaps she will cause trouble for the guild leader. That's possible. Thinking of this, the few of them quickly contacted Unparalleled Domination. Unparalleled Domination, who had just entered the wooden house, was also shocked by this news. This was too coincidental. They had just completed the test and obtained the right to meet the Queen. At this critical moment, Tyrant, his nemesis, appeared. This was **ing unlucky. Guild leader, ignore Tyrant for now. Hurry up and go in. Talk to the Queen first and snatch the mission. After obtaining the mission, we can discuss how to deal with Tyrant. A higher up of the guild suggested. Don't worry, everything is under control. Unparalleled Domination replied with a deep voice, then quickened his pace and entered the largest wooden house. Although he had encountered Tyrant, this time, he was well prepared. In order to obtain the recognition of the Elven Queen, he had collected a large number of corresponding herbs that could allow them to obtain a large amount of reputation points. Coupled with the friendly communication with the Night Elves, he believed that he could definitely obtain the hidden mission that had not been issued. As for Tyrant, that kid should have come here by accident because of his pet. Therefore, he was definitely not prepared. Moreover, the cost of building the cold desolate dragon city was so high, so this brat definitely could not produce much money to prepare for this hidden mission. To put it bluntly, he was not a competitor at all. In addition, Unparalleled Domination had already thought of a plan to deal with him. After all, elves could not sign a contract with humans. After I obtain the mission, I'll make an issue of this matter. At that time, I'll see if you die. Thinking of this, Unparalleled Domination was abnormally relaxed. He did not take Tyrant seriously at all. As he thought, Lorne followed Aisha into the cabin. The decor of the cabin was very exquisite. After all, this was the residence of the elf leader. Therefore, there were exquisite furniture, gorgeous accessories, and bright potted plants in this room. It gave people a simple but abnormally exquisite feeling. In addition to these arrangements, the room was filled with a faint female fragrance. In the hall of the wooden house, several noble elves in exquisite clothes stood on both sides. They were not wearing rough leather armor, but soft gauze. Coupled with their noble aura, it was difficult to look away. Especially Unparalleled Domination, he looked like a lecherous pig. He was immersed in the scene before him and even drooled uncontrollably. Lorne could not help but swallow his saliva. Damn, if I subdue all these night elves, my stamina won't be enough. Chapter 307, Unparalleled Domination coughs blood. Gosh, this is too beautiful. Are they only maids? If even maids are so beautiful, how powerful is the Elven Queen? It's so beautiful. It's like a dream. What a perfect appearance and figure. Just these screenshots alone will satisfy me for 3 days. The higher UPS of the guild who had had enough fun with the real beauties were extremely excited. They widened their eyes and stared greedily at the noble elves in the gauze. I can't take it anymore. If I can have these night elves, I won't sleep for 10 days. To be honest, I'm already desensitized by women in reality. Who isn't? I don't have any thoughts about those young models from yesterday. We have to ask the guild leader to work harder and subdue this night elf race as soon as possible. An elf race in such a special state is rare. The few of them discussed. At the same time, in the night elf camp. Honorable Queen Elwyn, I am the guild leader of the Domination Guild. I have helped the night elves resist the invasion of the enemy many times and have provided you with a large amount of medicinal herbs. I believe that with these sacrifices, you can tell that I am an admirer of the night elves. I cannot bear to see the night elves who were once glorious being hunted down, nor can I bear to see any of them die. In order to help the night elves return to their former glory, I hope to contribute more to the night elves. As soon as Lorne arrived near the hall, Unparalleled Domination immediately triggered a conversation with the seated Queen Elwyn. Young adventurer, thank you for your help with the night elves. However, the crisis that the night elves are in now is very special. This is very important. We cannot completely trust you for the time being. On the throne, Queen Elwyn shook her head. I understand all of this, but I think that more help might be able to make you believe in my intentions. Unparalleled Domination had long considered this problem. He opened his bag and took out bundles of herbs. Every herb was special. With the dragon's pharmacopoeia, Lorne could clearly identify them. These herbs should be level 5 or even level 7. Such herbs were definitely not dug up by him. He had probably spent a high price to buy them in the NPC shop. As for how much it cost, only Unparalleled Domination knew. No matter what, it was definitely not cheap. After all, these were herbs that exceeded the game progress. The value of each herb would increase by several times. Unparalleled Domination still chose to buy it. He was probably very confident in the mission of the Night Elves, or perhaps he had other goals. That was unknown. Soon, the herbs piled up into a small mountain. As Unparalleled Domination took out the herbs, he turned to look at Lorne, and the corners of his mouth immediately curled into a victorious smile. He felt that he would definitely win. In order to obtain these herbs, the Domination Guild had used 20,000 people to complete various missions in order to obtain the herbs. At the same time, they used their connections and spent tens of millions of alliance dollars to collect the scattered herbs from various sources. This not only required money, but also connections. If one did not know enough people, no matter how many people they had, they would definitely not be able to collect so many herbs. This was because many high-level medicinal herbs were sent by large guilds to feed high-level alchemists. Unless there were special circumstances, they would definitely not be easily sold. It was also because it was so rare that Unparalleled Domination was confident. He did not believe that Tyrant, who had just finished defending the city, could take out such a large number of high-level herbs in such a short time. Respected warrior, you are indeed the best friend of the Night Elves. These herbs are the resources that the Night Elves need the most. Thank you for your selfless contribution. On behalf of the Night Elves, I thank you sincerely. Queen Elwyn looked at Unparalleled Domination excitedly and became much more enthusiastic. At the same time, a panel appeared in front of Unparalleled Domination. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the Night Elf race reputation, plus 190. Congratulations on obtaining the Night Elf race reputation, plus 120. Congratulations on obtaining the Night Elf race reputation, plus 210. Congratulations on obtaining the Night Elf race reputation, plus 130. A series of information appeared on the interface. Just the herbs from just now had helped Unparalleled Domination obtain 35,600 reputation points. Coupled with the previous 20,000, he now had a total of 60,000 reputation points. This total reputation points could definitely be counted on one hand in the current game stage. Especially in the Night Elves, they were even higher than Lorne. Seeing that his reputation points had reached a new height, Unparalleled Domination immediately asked happily, "Then, Queen Elwyn, do you acknowledge my friendship now?" "Of course." Elwyn nodded and said, "With the resources you gave me, I can confirm that you are definitely one of the best friends of the Night Elves." "That's great. Send me the mission now. I'll immediately arrange for someone to deal with it." Unparalleled Domination was excited. "Mission?" Queen Elwyn shook her head and smiled, "I think you're mistaken, adventurer. Although I acknowledge your friendship, this cannot allow you to join this mission. Your current reputation is not enough to obtain our trust." Pfft! Unparalleled Domination spat out blood. After spending tens of millions of resources, they still had not met the requirements. How was this possible? "Then, Queen Elwyn, how many reputation points do you need to accept this mission?" Unparalleled Domination suppressed the unhappiness in his heart and asked. Queen Elwyn thought about it and replied, "If we look at your contribution just now, I think you only need 999 more contributions to be qualified to join the plan." Pfft! 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 Blood sprayed out 3 consecutive times. This time, not only did Unparalleled Domination vomit blood. Even the higher UPS of the guild who were watching the live stream far away in the base spat out blood. "Damn, this is ridiculous. This Elven Queen looks beautiful, but she's actually a monster. She actually wants tens of billions of resources. Is she crazy? How can someone really fulfill such a difficult condition? Don't be ridiculous. Even if we have money, we can't be so wasteful. Taking 10 billion alliance dollars to accept a mission, isn't that crazy? It's probably because the game progress is too early. High-level herbs are very expensive now, but if the player's herb picking skill reaches level 5 in 2 months, they can collect level 5 herbs. At that time, it will be relatively easy to accumulate these herbs. It's not that easy. The herbs at that time will definitely not be able to exchange for so many reputation points. In my opinion, it's just that the system doesn't want us players to accept this mission. In the base of the Domination Guild, the group of players was about to go crazy. The other party wanted medicinal herbs worth tens of billions. This was an impossible request. This also meant that most of their previous efforts had been in vain. This was a bloody loss. Chapter 308, This is the guy who deceived the Elven girl. I'm dying of laughter. Lorne could not help but laugh. Just now, Unparalleled Domination was extremely proud, but in the end, he was like this. Although he could not hear their conversation, he could clearly guess what had happened from their actions and expressions. Clearly, Unparalleled Domination wanted to achieve some kind of plan, but after paying a large amount of herbs, he still did not get what he wanted. Not only that, but the Elven Queen seemed to have made a shocking request. Even the pretentious king, Unparalleled Domination, spat out blood. This story was interesting. Lorne watched happily. But Unparalleled Domination, who heard the laughter, wanted to eat Lorne alive. Tyrant, don't be happy too soon. Unparalleled Domination turned around angrily and glared at Lorne, if I can't accept the mission, neither can you. A player like you who came empty-handed should know your place and leave quickly, lest you cause trouble here. Lorne did not care about his words. He smiled instead, you don't have to worry about that. Seeing his reaction, Unparalleled Domination's face turned green. Alright, you like to act cool, right? Tyrant, let's see how you're going to act next. Unparalleled Domination, who was about to leave, suddenly rushed in front of Lorne again and said to Queen Elwyn, Queen, in addition to giving me these resources, I came here today for another purpose. That is to tell you an extremely important piece of information. What information? Elwyn looked over curiously. I once saw someone take an elf as a pet in Iron Skull City. Not only that, but this person also did something offensive to that innocent night elf. Although he did not know what trump cards Tyrant had, Unparalleled Domination would not let him do everything in peace. No matter what he prepared, this time, Unparalleled Domination was going to completely destroy all his hopes. Damn Tyrant! You like to posture in front of me, right? Let's see how you can still posture now. Unparalleled Domination told her everything about Aisha. The corners of his mouth curled into a confident smile. In the hall, all the elves were shocked. The noble elves standing on both sides were all moved. This was because this was a taboo among the elves. The effect it had was even greater than actively throwing oneself into the darkness. Is that true? Elwyn's expression darkened. Seeing such a huge reaction, Unparalleled Domination was overjoyed. He quickly said righteously, of course. I can swear with my life that this is true. That guy is also an adventurer and often relied on his strength to lord over Iron Skull City and bully other adventurers. My guild even lost tens of thousands of people because of him. In my impression, the Night Elves are a race that advocates peace. They will definitely not collude with such treacherous and cunning people. Therefore, I can almost confirm that this guy must have used a special method to deceive that kind elf girl. It is because of this that after I knew about this as soon as possible, I left to see Her Majesty. I hope that Her Majesty can save that poor elf girl. Unparalleled Domination said firmly. As he lowered his head to beg, he glanced at Lorne again. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile, and his eyes were filled with provocation. Lorne was speechless. It had to be said that Unparalleled Domination was not useless to be the leader of a large guild. At the very least, he knew to use other forces to deal with his enemies. This was commendable. However, he did not consider it thoroughly. Since Lorne dared to bring Aisha to the Elves' land, he was clearly not afraid of the consequences. Unfortunately, Unparalleled Domination was too confident. He actually naively thought that he could suppress Lorne with just this matter. He was thinking too much. Perhaps what you said might be true, but I can't just believe your one-sided story. Elwyn wanted to say that this matter was important and that she had to wait to investigate before making a decision. But before she could finish, Unparalleled Domination took the initiative to speak. Queen, this is not a one-sided story, because the guy who abducted the elven girl is in this hall. Unparalleled Domination pointed at Lorne and said angrily, it's him. This guy cheated an elven girl and touched the taboo of the elves. He's a heinous sinner. Queen, quickly kill him. It's best if you remove all his equipment and hand them to a righteous adventurer like me. This way, we can provide more help to the Night Elves. This was a typical display of the aggressor blaming the victim. Of course, Lorne did not care. He walked calmly to the center of the hall. Aisha followed behind him. But the moment Elwyn saw Aisha, she was stunned. Aisha. So you're really not dead? In Iron Skull City, when Lorne was merging with Aisha, the Elven Guard Captain Myra was also beside him. She had seen Aisha resurrect with her own eyes. Because she needed to give Elwyn an explanation, she finally secretly informed the Queen. As for why she did not let Aisha return, she said that it was a problem with the bond after resurrection, and that the Night Elves were in a mess now and would only face danger if they returned. It was better to stay by the adventurer's side and meet him after the Night Elves stabilized. Elwyn naturally agreed. But recently, the danger faced by the Night Elves was too great. She wanted Aisha by her side to share some of the pressure. However, as busy as she was, she could not find Aisha. In the end, she could only wait quietly. But who would have thought that this day would come so quickly? Chapter 309, The Shock Caused by the Dragon Blood Grass. Heavens, it's really Aisha. She's still alive. How is this possible? Wasn't she corroded by the demonic aura? Strange, there doesn't seem to be any more demonic aura on her. The noble elves discussed. Aisha, come over. Let me see you. Queen Elwyn called for Aisha. After receiving Lorne's approval, she ran up and hugged her mother intimately. Elwyn touched her head and sighed. She took out a special crystal and placed it between Aisha's eyebrows. Finally, the crystal lit up. Seeing this, Elwyn was relieved. To be honest, she was very worried about Aisha's health. If this adventurer had entered her body, the bloodline in her body would lose its divinity and gradually become ordinary. Fortunately, none of this happened. Aisha was in a very good state now. Not only had her body completely recovered, but the strength in her body seemed to have increased greatly. Perhaps this was the result of her training outside. Mother, I want to ask you not to make things difficult for Master. Without Master's help. Aisha also knew the taboo of the elves. But before she could finish, Elwyn rubbed her head and smiled. Mother knows what you want to say. Don't worry, he's the benefactor of our night elves. I won't do anything to him. However, to sign a contract with an elf, he has to complete a test. This is a rule that was left behind 10,000 years ago. Aisha, do you think he can do it? Elwyn looked at her. Aisha nodded seriously, I believe in Master. He can definitely do it. That's good. This was not good. Below, Unparalleled Domination felt that something was amiss. Tyrant's elf pet seemed to be extraordinary. Would the Elven Queen let him go? No. Absolutely not. Thinking of this, Unparalleled Domination could not sit still anymore. He quickly shouted, Queen, this adventurer has violated the elves' taboo. This is an unforgivable act. Please quickly kill him. That's right, Queen, quickly kill this bastard. Queen. The other players from the Domination Guild also spoke. They all felt that something was wrong. They had to urge the Queen to act quickly. Otherwise, if this continued, she might really forgive Tyrant's sins. Silence. Elwyn's expression became abnormally serious. The members of the Domination Guild standing in the hall shrank their necks. This Elven Queen still had strength. If they really angered her, they might not be able to leave safely. At this moment, Elwyn said, I have my own way of dealing with Aisha. I don't need your advice. Damn it. Hearing this, Unparalleled Domination knew that Elwyn would not deal with Tyrant. However, it did not matter. If they did not deal with him, someone would naturally deal with him. How could a mere night elf race have the ability to break the taboo? Unparalleled Domination decided to inform the Emerald City about this. He believed that the elves in the Emerald City would settle scores with Tyrant. After all, this was a rule that they had followed for 10,000 years. Tyrant's actions were clearly against the entire elves. Even if the night elves could protect him for a while, they would definitely not be able to protect him forever. Looks like your plan failed. Lorne looked at Unparalleled Domination with a smile and said in disdain. Unparalleled Domination's confidence just now was fully converted into pain, like he was slapped in the face. Young man, you're still too young to fight me. Tyrant, don't be happy too soon. Unparalleled Domination snorted and said with a dark expression, even if you won't be punished, don't even think of accepting the mission here. For this mission, our Domination Guild used more than 20,000 people and spent more than $100 million to reach our current level. You're alone and not prepared at all. Wanting to accept this mission is simply a dream. That might not be true. Lorne smiled even wider and walked past him. Hearing this, Unparalleled Domination stopped. Since this tyrant liked to posture, he would watch carefully here. At that time, he would definitely suffer. After all, the Elven Queen's request was a total of tens of millions of reputation points. This was not a request that current players could fulfill. At that moment, Lorne had triggered the conversation with Elwyn. From the contents of the conversation, he could indeed sense the existence of a very large hidden mission, but the difficulty of accepting it was very high. It was basically impossible for players at this stage. However, Unparalleled Domination had given the other party medicinal herbs. This seemed to be the key to increasing his reputation points. With that in mind, Lorne immediately checked his dragon's treasure vault to see if there were any herbs that he could obtain. There were many types of herbs inside, and the numbers were different. However, it was impossible to exchange these herbs for 10 million reputation points. Unless he used the dragon blood grass. Dragon blood grass was a herb that had grown near the fountain in the cold desolate dragon city. Every one of them was very precious. Ever since he had obtained the dragon's pharmacopoeia, Lorne had collected all the herbs in the cold desolate dragon city. Because the growth area of the dragon blood grass was very large, the number was also very astonishing. There were a total of 100,000 in Lorne's treasure vault, and in the warehouse of the cold desolate dragon city, there were nearly 200,000. In Divine Realm, any tool or material with the word dragon was valuable. Especially the dragon blood grass. Dragon blood grass was a special herb that could only be born after being stained with dragon blood and absorbing enough dragon aura. It was very important to all the monsters in the world. Moreover, according to the records of the dragon's pharmacopoeia, the dragon's blood grass seemed to be a key medicinal herb for the night elves to transform. Presumably, such a medicinal herb could be exchanged for enough reputation points, right? With that in mind, Lorne took out a dragon blood grass from his bag. He had to test it first. If he could reach the requirement to accept the mission, Lorne would try to exchange it and discuss other conditions with the Queen. I thought you were prepared. This medicinal herb is not even enough to cause a ripple on the lake surface. Unparalleled Domination could not help but laugh. The other lackeys also mocked. But as they were rejoicing, something unexpected happened. All the night elves in the hall widened their eyes and stared at the herb in Lorne's hand. The greed in their eyes could not be hidden. Elwyn could not help but leave the throne and come to Lorne's side. Is this the legendary dragon blood grass? Chapter 310, Can I have them? The Night Elf Queen had never seen such a treasure, but the familiar aura and the natural feeling made her believe in her judgment. This was the dragon blood grass that the Night Elves had not found in many years. Holding the herb, Elwyn was very excited, almost forgetting herself. Lorne took the opportunity to size up the Elven Queen. Her figure and appearance were impeccable. The face that resembled Aisha was less youthful and more mature. Although she was old, elves were a long-lived race. Now, she looked like a young girl and even had a different style. At the same time, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations on giving an extremely precious dragon blood grass to the Night Elf Queen, Elwyn. Reward, Night Elf Reputation plus 1,000. So many. Lorne could not help but be shocked. One dragon blood grass could actually be exchanged for 1,000 reputation points, and he had a total of 100,000 dragon blood grass on him. Wouldn't he be able to obtain 100 million reputation points? Thinking of this, Lorne could not help but feel excited. Looking at the noble elves in the room, he suddenly had a feeling that he wanted to have everyone. Damn, if he took these night elves into his harem, the game Divine Realm would be fun. It would be like heaven on earth, right? Mr. Tyrant, do you still have such herbs? Elwyn quickly asked. Of course, the dragon blood grass is a specialty of our cold desolate dragon city. Cold desolate dragon city. Elwyn seemed to have heard of this name, but she did not remember where it came from. Therefore, she looked at him seriously and said, Can Mr. Tyrant please introduce us to the city lord of the cold desolate dragon city? We want to buy a batch of dragon blood grass. We can pay any price. Any price? Lorne frowned, then pointed at the noble elves and said, Even if the price is them. Adventurer! Don't go overboard. You'd better watch your mouth. If not for Aisha, you would already be dead. The noble elves standing on both sides were furious and shouted. Unparalleled Domination's eyes lit up. They were going to fight. Very good. This was it. It would be best if they turned the world upside down and killed Tyrant. Then, he would take away Tyrant's equipment. At that time, no one would be able to stop the Domination Guild from advancing. At this moment, everyone looked at Elwen. As long as she gave the order, this adventurer in front of them would be torn to pieces instantly. However, the following situation was far beyond everyone's expectations. After a moment of silence, Elwen nodded, "If you only need their combat strength, I can agree to this request, provided that you don't force their will." Queen. Hearing this, the elves were stunned. But soon, they convinced themselves. To the night elves, dragon blood grass was a very important herb, especially to the current night elves. The purchase of this batch of dragon blood grass might directly affect whether the race could continue living. After thinking about these factors, they decided to sacrifice themselves for the race. But as the atmosphere turned serious, Lorne laughed, "Sorry, I was just joking with you." "You shouldn't be joking." Elwen's expression remained dark. The decision she had made just now was built on the sacrifice of her people. This was an extremely heavy choice for her, and it was definitely not a joke. "Sorry, I was rude. As compensation, I'm willing to give you a sufficient discount on the dragon blood grass deal," Lorne smiled as he replied. "How can a weak adventurer like you have so much authority?" Elwen shook her head in disbelief. However, Aisha came to her side and spoke softly. Elwen's eyes lit up. It turned out that this adventurer was the city lord of cold desolate Dragon City. Didn't that mean that he had enough dragon blood grass? This was unbelievable. An adventurer who did not even reach the Earth realm actually owned a large city and even had an extremely rare herb like the dragon blood grass. Elwen was shocked and was about to discuss what to do with Lorne when she stopped and looked up at the members of the Domination Guild. "Adventurers, we have something important to discuss. Please leave for a moment." Pfft! Unparalleled Domination almost spat out blood. When he gave them the herbs just now, they were called respected warriors. Now that Tyrant, this scoundrel, had arrived, they had actually become adventurers and were directly chased out. Damn, their attitude changed faster than flipping a book. Damn, what did this Tyrant do? I knew it. As long as we encounter Tyrant, nothing good will happen. It should be the herb in Tyrant's hand. I think so too. Ever since Tyrant took out the herbs, Queen Elwen's attitude changed greatly. Damn, now that bastard Tyrant has it easy. There are so many night elves here. This kid is going to take them all. Take them down my ass. Elwen is mine. Moreover, Tyrant only has a little more opportunity to interact with her. Who says that he will definitely be able to subdue Elwen? If you continue talking nonsense, I'll kill you. Unparalleled Domination's expression distorted. Although he left unwillingly this time, it did not affect his dream of conquering the Night Elves. As for Tyrant, that guy had only benefited from the fast progress of the game. However, that guy was only one person after all. As long as they planned well, they believed that they could quickly catch up to the other party. At that time, they would kill Tyrant, snatch his elf pet, and also completely trample him under their feet. The lackey beside him asked, "Boss, where are we going now? Are we still collecting herbs?" "Collect my ass." Unparalleled Domination walked out of the camp without looking back, and he said in a low voice, "Since we can't do it openly, we'll go in the dark. Right now, all the major forces are searching for the Night Elves. You guys tell the people of the Netherworld Guild the location of the Night Elves. As for the few of us, go to the Emerald City now and find an opportunity to see the Dragon of Emerald to announce the news of Tyrant contracting an elf. At that time, I want to see how the Night Elves will side with that scoundrel." "Alright, boss. I'll inform the Netherworld Guild now. As for meeting the Dragon of Emerald, I reckon there will be a chance recently. Our Elite Team 3 is doing a mission. After completing it, we will have a chance to enter the Elven Holy Temple and meet the Dragon of Emerald. Very good. Let them hurry up. Yes.